sometimes the wiring up here kind of short circuits, and the message coming across of be kind. Don't do anything too bizarre. Keep your behavior in check. Well, sometimes this advice gets lost in translation. I'll begin. My story is titled Rabbity Birthday. I asked Pops if he would take me out rabbit hunting for my 14th birthday. He answered me with a question, do you have a gun? Well, here I am at the Western Auto purchasing one with all my savings that I collected through mowing lawns, shoveling snow, delivering newspapers. She's a real beaut. It's a double barrel, 12 gauge, Ithaca, full choke, and a box of shells. Pop's always kept his promises. And the following Saturday, we got an early start and we headed out. He parked a Studebaker truck not far from the sign that said, "Welcome to Maine, the Pine Tree State, state game lands of Castle Rock." As we started our walk, I noticed that he stopped for a while. I kept going. I looked back at him over my shoulder, and here he was pouring some pills into the palm of his hand, and he put them in his mouth, dry chewed them, and swallowed. I continued up a little bit ahead, and I spotted a squirrel in a tree. I shouldered my firearm, took the safety off, and as I was squeezing the trigger, I was violently pushed to the ground. The gun discharged. Kaboom! Pop stood over me, shaking his fist at me, and he said, "We don't eat rodents in this family. That thing you were aiming at is nothing more than a rat with a fancy tail." I gathered myself and the gun up, replaced the spent shell, and on we went. And soon the tree line broke, and out in front of us was an open expanse of field. And not far from where we stood was exactly what I was looking for, the thicket. It was as wide as it was long, tall, 3 and 4 foot of mountain laurel, greenbrier, lots more mountain laurel. Spikes of sumac were standing. There's a whole bunch of viney stuff with berries and thorns on it. Wow, this is where the rabbits are. Pops motioned me to the far side. I took it that he was going to flush them out for me. And that's when I turned to him and I said, "Hey, Pops, don't you suppose maybe we should have brought the dogs?" He grabbed me by the arm and he brought me up close. And in a spray of his spittle, he said to me, "Do I look like someone that needs assistance by a couple of dogs? And I'll promise you this, I'll break your gall darn neck if you ever slander me again with that mouth of yours." As I was walking away, I recalled of the many arguments him and Mom would get into. Before Mom would slam the door on him, she would say to him, "You know what, Norman? You're a fucking moron." Well, I wanted to repeat those very words, but it would be disrespectful. And besides, he had a loaded gun. When we got home later that evening and walked through the door, Mom instinctively knew that we were empty-handed. You could see how sad she was by looking at her. For she had everything prepped on the kitchen counter and the table set up nice in hopes of a rabbit supper. Not happening. We ended up eating at McDonald's. Yuck. The end. As I was returning to my seat, all my classmates were laughing, high-fiving, being boisterous. And then our English teacher, Mrs. Abrams, she cleared her throat. Ahem. We all fell quiet. She then pushed herself away from the desk that she was sitting at. She stood up, straightened her dress, and for some reason, she started running around the perimeter of the classroom. Around and around she went. And then she came to a rest at the door that gave entrance to the hallway. Catching her breath, there was something really strange about her. She was looking out across the classroom through the big plate glass window that looked east towards the town square. Then she got into a sprinter stance, and off she went. And as she neared the window, she put her arms out with her hands, and she dove right through it. Crash! Classmates and I, we all hurried over to have a look-see. She dropped from the 5th floor of the English department. She landed in a big thatch of mountain laurel. Mountain laurel was the predominant landscaping theme that surrounded our school. She was bleeding pretty bad. She had a real gusher going on her right arm. We could see her underwear. Not far from where she landed, a whole bunch of rabbits broke free, and out across the schoolyard they went. I figured they're probably heading to Mr. Tillett's farm, probably to the briar patches that always yielded a great harvest of berries in the summertime. Walking home from school that day, I got to thinking about all those rabbits. Wow. And then I got to thinking about telling Pops about all those rabbits. And then I soon came to the realization that that would be something only a fucking moron would do. Peace.